On today's episode, we're going to talk about the fact that Denis Villeneuve's Dune trailer has finally come out, and oh my goodness gracious, I have to talk to someone about it. Hello, Lieblings, I'm Mari, science fiction and fantasy author who's been living in southern Germany since 2014. If you've seen some of my other episodes, I have mentioned that Frank Herbert's Dune was a major source of inspiration for my own works, and even though I haven't read the book since I was 15, I still get a visceral reaction from seeing and hearing parts of the book portrayed on screen. Because let's face it, I haven't been this excited about a film trailer since the Fellowship of the Ring trailer came out back in 2000, and I had to download the whole trailer, and it took like the whole night to do it because that was dial-up internet at the time, and I just kind of dated myself. Oh well. At this point, I have lost count how many times I watched this trailer, and not just in English, but also in German, because let's face it, I live in Germany, so chances are I will be seeing this movie in German. So that means I just gotta get hyped auf Deutsch as well, right? But before we get started, hit the subscribe button and ring the bell if you haven't already. Here on Adventures of Lamari, we talk about writing, living abroad, and everything in between. So Denis Villeneuve's upcoming Dune film is not the first film to try and tackle Frank Herbert's masterpiece. It's not even the second. But if you have stumbled upon this video because of the word Dune in the title, then you already know this. If you aren't familiar with the world of Dune, welcome and strap in. So first, I have this weird love-hate relationship with David Lynch's 1984 version of Dune. Like, as a film by itself, I love the aesthetics, the costumes, the music, the acting. I live for the fact that Patrick Stewart's Gurney Halleck runs into battle holding a pug. As a fellow pug owner, I appreciate it. But as far as adaptations go, I hate it. I really hate it. I first saw this movie almost immediately after having read the book. So again, first time I read this book, I was 15, the same age as Paul Atreides in the book. And of course, yeah, this is part of the reason why the book really affected me in that way, because it was just seeing a fellow 15-year-old going through this amazing adventure. Oh my goodness. But anyway, so like I said, this whole thing was all fresh in my mind, and I have lost count how many times I was screaming at the computer monitor while I was watching this. And I say computer monitor because this was back when DVD players weren't really a thing. And the only DVD player we had was on my dad's computer. And then I just dated myself again because I'm old. Anyway, so actually even funnier story was I didn't even intend to watch the 1984 version of Dune. I had gone to the video store to rent the Sci-Fi 2000 miniseries version. And some idiot had switched the DVDs, and I went home with the 1984 version instead. And I remember watching it and being really confused. I was like, this looks old, first off. And I was like, oh, maybe some kind of preview, or maybe some kind of short film homage that's before. I wasn't paying attention because it went straight to the movie. There was no menu screen. There is a menu screen, but it just bypassed it when you put the DVD in. And then it just kept going, and I realized, oh crap, somebody switched the DVDs, and now I'm stuck with this one. And I sat through it, and yeah, guys, I was not happy with that. Anyway, there was so much that was condensed or removed or even changed. He changed the freaking ending. All you're left is essentially a white savior trope of a film, which is literally the complete opposite of what Frank Herbert intended. I mean, also, don't get me started on the fact that Lynch wanted to make a sequel. How can you make a sequel when you took away both of Paul's source of power? He doesn't marry Irulan, and he makes it rain. Sorry, spoiler alert. Just how, David? How can you even begin Dune Messiah without those two things? Seriously. Anyway, I could go on and on about my problems with that movie in terms of adaptation, not in terms of moviness. But there is actually a far better video that breaks this down over at Quinn's Ideas. I'll link the video somewhere up here, as well as in the description below. I highly recommend you watch it. He really breaks it down much better, the reasons behind why it's just, adaptation wise, it's a terrible film. Like I said, I am more of a fan of the Sci-Fi Channel miniseries version of Dune from 2000. I think it is the the best I mean, there's only those two well, there's also that one from the 60s that I just discovered, but we're not going to talk about that one. But I think it is like the best the 2001 is the best adaptation. I mean, it was a made-for-TV movie. It didn't have the best budget. I mean, it cost them $20 million. So it was, like at that time, it was groundbreaking. I remember when it came out and I thought it was so great. But of course, I just rewatched it recently. I thought, wow, yeah, it shows. Like the special effects are not very good. But the thing is, though, like the movie's like 5.5 hours long, and that's in all honesty, that's more important than having like, well, in the case of this, it is having like the best special effects, because there's just so much to encompass to kind of get it right. And most fans of the miniseries are more than willing to look past the crappy special effects because the story is still good. So, they kept the correct ending, for example. And then, of course, they even started scratching the surface of what Frank Herbert wanted to tell in the whole saga with the sequel that they came out 3 years later, Children of Dune. And of course, if you're wondering what the message is, it is the dangers of idolizing heroic figures. But we're not really we're gonna talk about. I mean, this is having to do with Paul specifically. We're not even gonna tackle Leto II's role in this episode. No, there's plenty of other things I have to cover. I mean, that idea of like idolizing figures in history to the point to like godlike statuses, it's kind of a topic I have tried touching in my own novels. I mean, I say novels because not only the one that has already been published, but also the one that I'm currently working on. Of course, when I say try, I mean try, because I am not Frank Herbert. Of course, so now we get to this new version, and we get the big budget and even hopefully the time necessary to tackle this epic story. In case you didn't know, this version coming out is going to only be like the first half of Dune. And I mean, after Lord of the Rings and tackling like Harry Potter and all these bigger stories that have taken more than one film to do, I'm okay with like dividing a movie into parts, especially as, like I said, with Dune, you're going to need as much as possible to do it correctly. So I'm okay with that. And I'm literally doing my best to keep my cool because, Jeebus, that trailer looked fantastic. Oh, God. Okay, so now let's actually talk about this trailer. I just take forever to get to the point, don't I? And how even in another language, I still get chills. Like I said earlier, since I live in Germany, I will most likely be seeing this film in German. At least the first time, because trust me, I will most likely be seeing it more than once. I mean, it's not impossible for me to see movies in English in Germany, but like movie theaters usually, well, not all of them, of course, but some of them reserve like one evening a week to show films in the original version, OV. It's with the Rona and everything and fewer people going into theaters. I actually would have to go and see if they're still even offering that at the moment. I don't know. They probably are. I'm getting ahead of myself. I mean, it's not impossible. It's just the fact that whenever I go see movies like this, whether it's like Star Wars or Marvel or Disney, whatever, I'm usually kind of with a group of people. And Germany is a dubbed country. They prefer their movies dubbed, and everybody would rather see it with German voices. So I'm usually outnumbered, and thus I see it in Germany. It's the reality of living in Germany, and it's fine. It's totally fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's absolutely fine. Oh, God, dog. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I mean, to be honest, I am actually one of those people who just prefers subtitles over dubbing. And, of course, like, the German argument that I hear is just because the German voices sound better. And, yeah, that's fine. But, like, for me, I have a problem when the sound does not match the movement of the actor's lips. Like, I find it very distracting, and I cannot focus on the movie as a result. So I always have to see a movie in its original language. I don't care what the language is. Like, it has to match. And and also, especially watching American movies in Germany, it bothers me as well because I know the actor's original voice, and sometimes I hear a voice that's just not even close, and that's even more distracting. And I know I'm getting totally off topic, but I promise I'll come back. It will all come back. So, like, my example of this phenomenon is that I usually use is Matthew McConaughey. So I went to go see Interstellar in German when it first came out. And, by the way, the actor Timothée Chalamet, who plays Paul Atreides, or Timothy Chalamet, I've heard it pronounced both ways, he is also in this film. And part of McConaughey's draw as an actor is his signature Texan accent. I mean, his German voice actor, Benjamin Völz, I don't know how to pronounce that. It's a beautiful voice, yes, of course. Don't get me wrong, but it's super distracting because I'm expecting that text is a drawl and I don't get it. But fine, whatever. It is really distracting. But then once I did finally get to see it in English, why am I saying German? In English, I noticed that there were actually a lot of nuances that were lost. But because in the end, it's the voice actor putting their own interpretation of the role, and it's not Matthew McConaughey's original intent. But whatever, guys, that's my personal experience. There is no right or wrong concerning dubbed or subbed. There's no right or wrong. It's simply they're both perfectly valid, and I'm just a subbed girl. So, quick question. What about you guys? What do you prefer? Do you prefer dubbed, subbed? Let me know in the comments. I really would like to hear. And anyway, so part of watching a movie that is filmed in your native language, but then having to watch it in another and experience it in another is it is a different experience altogether. So another thing that I've been doing the last few years was introducing our nephews to the Star Wars saga. And in the end, it meant rewatching the whole saga in German, and it was really fun getting to watch it because in a way, did kind of feel like watching it for the first time all over again. Okay, I mean, not really. Let's be honest, but I mean, I think it actually made it's a bigger difference watching a movie that I already knew the story and I know the quotes and everything, as opposed to when the Marvel movies came out and I was kind of trying to anticipate what was happening as well as translating in my head, and it's very different. But personally, I'm quite confident when I say that I'm quite positive that my experience in watching Dune in German will be similar to that of Star Wars, because I know the story, I know the quotes, and I know, I think it will just be a fantastic experience, and it being in a different language is not going to detract from that. And then it will still be an equally satisfying experience when I inevitably watch it again in English. I mean, and of course you're wondering, how do I know these things? And it literally is the trailer. And like I said, I watched the trailer in English and in German. And let's face it, the trailer was made for fans. And the reason why I know this is because I showed the trailer to my husband, and he came away thinking, this looks really cool, but I have no idea what's happening. So in that case, I mean, it was the first trailer, and it was obviously the target audience was made for us, the fans. I know more trailers are going to come out that are going to be maybe a little more clear about what the story is. Because of course, if you do look at all the breakdowns that are out there on YouTube of the Dune trailer, it breaks down all of those memorable scenes that we as fans are expecting to see in the film, like the worm, or the moment where Paul is meeting the Reverend Mother, or quoting "the fear is the mind killer," or all of those things that we as fans expect. We saw it, but yeah, I didn't actually tell you what the story's about. But again, we fans, we already know that. Anyway, so, I mean, don't get me wrong, my husband thoroughly enjoys sci-fi and has even seen one of the Dune movies, except when I asked him which one, whether it was the 1984 version or the 2000, his response was, the one with the worms in it. Yeah, that really narrowed it down, babe. Yeah. Anyway, the wonderful thing about film medium is how much the visuals can transcend language. Like I said, all of those moments that we were expecting in the trailer, like seeing Paul with the Reverend Mother, or seeing the worm, or seeing, the Fremen. I mean, that was all. Those are things that you don't need to translate. That's something that visually we all recognize. The fans, by we. I mean, like I said, either seeing the worms was so cool to see that at the end, or even seeing the shields, for example, that were done well compared to the 1984 version, which looked like crap, and the 2000 version only had it maybe within the first 10 minutes of the film because they didn't have the budget for it. Or even seeing the worm destroy the spice harvester was also really freaking cool. And even just the overall aesthetic of Denis Villeneuve's idea of this world is just stunning. But then, of course, you get to the quotes, like the things that actually do have to get translated, the ones that the fans know by heart. I still got chills in the German trailer when Paul stood in front of Reverend Mother Gaius Helen Mohiam and she told him to put his hand in the box. And he said, "Was ist in dem Kasten? Schmerz." Dude, I know it's such a small moment, but the fact that I can watch this scene in German and still have the same visceral reaction that when I saw it in English, I mean, kind of remind me how, like, where I am in my German language learning journey. But I mean, it is one thing to like have an understanding, and then it's like a completely different beast when you feel it. Schmerz. Or maybe it's just because I love Dune so much that it carries over. I don't know. But then we have to get to the other well-known quote, like the quote. I mean, granted, the trailer only touches like bits of it, of the whole quote, and even the German trailer did actually a great job. And in case you're wondering at this point, I'm talking about the Fear is Mind Killer quote. So like, ich darf keine Angst haben. Angst tötet den Verstand. Wo keine Angst mehr ist, da werde nur noch ich sein. Granted, that's that translation. It actually made me curious about how the whole quote is actually translated into German, because I'm actually quite positive that it's translated differently. So naturally, I bought a copy in German to compare it in English, because I mean, I'm a translator also as my day job. So, and I'm like super nerdy about stuff like that. So anyway, first let's do the quote in English, the original quote. So it is, "I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me. And when it has gone past, I will turn the inner eye to see its path. Where the fear has gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain." All right, so then in German, first off, I'm going to apologize because I will butcher this. Ich darf mich nicht fürchten. Die Furcht tötet das Bewusstsein. Die Furcht führt zu völliger Zerstörung. Ich werde ihr ins Gesicht sehen. Sie soll mich völlig durchdringen. Und wenn sie nur von mir gegangen ist, wird nichts zurückbleiben. Nichts außer mir. Alright, for like the 5 of you who watch my channel and can speak both German and English, do you notice that there's a line missing? The line is, "And when it has gone past, I will turn the inner eye to see its path." I mean, I think that's kind of interesting. I mean, from a prose standpoint, I really love the imagery behind "I will turn the inner eye to see its path." So I think it's kind of sad for like the German-only audiences that are kind of missing out on the little nugget. But anyway, I also I wondered about the differences in choices between Angst and Furcht. It sounds so terrible. I'm really sorry about like the. Apparently, Furcht means having fear towards a specific situation. Like, for example, when this quote is first used, when Paul is with the Reverend Mother and going through the whole pain box test bit, while Angst is a more general fear. And if I'm right about that, like in my personal opinion, I think Angst is a better word, since Paul could have been referring to the specific incident. The litany against fear is to overcome fear in all of its forms. So I feel it's more abstract sense, therefore Angst. But, I could be wrong. I'm not a native German speaker. I mean, like, this is just me doing, nerdy research. But let me know what you think about the difference between Angst and Furcht, as well as what do you think would be the better word to use in translating this quote. I'll even see if I can set up a survey. I don't even know if we can do that anymore onto YouTube, but if not, let me know in the comments below. And also, like, I find it interesting because for those of us who are familiar with Dune in English, I mean, this is how Frank Herbert wrote it. It's fixed permanently in our collective consciousness, and there is no changing it. It is set in stone. Yet the translation turns out to be more fluid. I mean, and obviously it's because it's hard to nail like that quote perfectly from every angle, like exactly 1-to-1. And then of course, once you think you got it, then somebody else will come in with perhaps a better way of formulating it. Language is weird. I don't know. Regardless, I am super excited about this whole thing. I don't know about you. Are you guys excited, or like, am I the only one? I doubt that. Let me know what your favorite part of the trailer was below. Or if you haven't seen the trailer, tell me about your favorite part of the book or of the movie or of everything. Because let's talk Dune. And that's it. Thank you so much for joining me. If you're new here, please consider subscribing and give this video a thumbs up. It lets me and YouTube know that you like content like this and you want to see more. Please leave me a comment if you have any questions or if there's any other topics you would like to see on this channel. And for those science fiction fans, my Space Fantasy of the God Queen is available in ebook, paperback, and hardback. I have all the links in the description below, as well as the first 6 chapters if you sign up for my newsletter. Anyway, and don't forget to connect with me on social media, whether it is through Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. And that's it. Until next time, adieu.